I had a dream that I could fly from the highest swing. I had a dream.
We caught up with singer-songwriter indie artist Korean-American Prescilla Ahn, who finds herself not only dealing with the pandemic, a songwriting career, but also motherhood.
I feel very fortunate to be able to say that it's been a very nice time in the way that, my husband suddenly didn't have work or pressure of work. And first of all, as a family, we've just been able to be together. Our kids are 5 and 2, and just being able to see them every single day and be together, it was just a very nice time we were thankful for. But also it's funny, when COVID, hit the world, and then following that was Black Lives Matter. I was going through a little bit of some deep introspective thinking, especially when COVID hit, where I was just like, what is my life for? Like, what is this about? What am I supposed to be doing? Because I think once I became a mom 5 years ago, I kind of shut down the music part of myself. I made a children's album when I was pregnant, and then that was kind of it. And I really considered maybe like changing careers or just focusing on being a mom. I really wanted to like take on that role and focus on that, which I did. And then when I was pregnant with my second son, something triggered, and I was like, I think I just wanted like a piece of my old identity back. So I was like, I think I want to try music again. But coming back into it, I didn't feel very relevant anymore. A lot of things had changed in the past few years. And so I just was struggling to understand what my place and my purpose was. And I was like, why would people even care or want to hear my music anymore? I've been around for a good bit, and now I'm coming back. What will bring people back? And it's funny, so like I am not very technologically savvy. And so even with Instagram, I never dove deep into it. I didn't realize that you can get direct messages from people. It was like this weird circuitous route where I have to like accept the message and then I can see it. And I don't know. Anyway, I just figured it out one day because, it was COVID, there's nothing to do. And I think I was looking for a little bit of outside connection. And I suddenly saw, hundreds and hundreds of messages from fans in the past years telling me how my music had helped them through maybe a difficult time in their life. And it was like a running theme. And people had told me that in the past. I'd heard some of those stories. And for whatever reason, I was not very kind to myself, and I didn't really accept it as real. And because I just didn't want to give myself or my music that credit. And I was just always very like insecure and down on myself. But yeah, so seeing those messages, and really taking them in, and maybe seeing them all back to back like that too, it just really hit me that like, oh my gosh, like my music really helps people. And I've always wanted to do something that helped people, because when I was thinking about a career change, I was like, maybe I'll be a therapist or something, like work with children. And now I'm realizing that my music kind of plays that role in a way for people. And yeah, and so it's actually, this time has really re-inspired me, and I think made my purpose musically and in my life just more clear. And so I have like a real goal, and when I start to doubt myself again, I can root myself in this new discovery, which has been really nice.
And so this new single, how did that come about?
So there's 2 new singles out now.
Okay.
So the first one is called You Make the World a Better Place. This was I covered this song, It's written by a guy named Benji Hughes, and I've covered some of his songs in the past. He's one of my favorite singer-songwriters. And this song in particular, whenever it came on my iPod or phone or whatever, it just filled me with such a warm, fuzzy, positive feeling. You know, the chorus is, "You make the world a better place," you know, and it's sung in this beautiful melody that just like reminded me of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And I was like, this
We
is a
love
message.
Mr. Rogers.
Yes, yes. And yeah, it just felt like a message that I just felt people needed to, it felt like an affirmation that we all need to remember. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of the basis of that song. I really wanted to put that vibe, that energy out there. The second single, which was just released, is called Waiting. It's a song I wrote with a guy named Dan Wilson, who was the singer from the band Semisonic. And we wrote this 10 years ago. And it started out as like, you know, I'd been touring a lot. He used to tour all the time. So it's kind of like a song of waiting to be back with your loved one again. And it's interesting because, you know, I was mixing this album when COVID hit, and listening back to the songs and even playing the songs for some friends. They were like, "Whoa, this song Waiting is like, did you write this about this time?" And I was, you know, and I was like, "No," but it's very interesting how the words can really relate, you know, waiting to be reconnected with your loved ones, which you know, all of us are having to do right now.
It's somewhat psychic, huh?
Yes. This was planned. No.
I look at musicians during this time of COVID, and their inability to tour is, so it sounds like for you, because your kids are so small, it's been a blessing for you. But how are you able to write when you have kids to take care of at the same time? I've heard that's the big problem with mothers. Right now, the kids are home, they can't go to school, and they still have, you know, to, especially young ones.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So as far as like the touring part, I felt like I kind of made up for it a little bit because I discovered the Instagram Live function.
Hmm.
So this past summer, every Wednesday, I would do like a kids show of kid-friendly songs around 10 a.m. And I looked forward to it so much. And my husband would, you know, watch our kids for those 30 minutes. And yeah, and it just brought me so much joy to bring this to other moms who I know were struggling and just like pulling their hair out of like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna fill up the day? Because I know that feeling. So like people would take pictures of their kids watching the show, and it was very uplifting for me. I found a lot of uplifting things from this pandemic for myself personally. But as far as writing as
Mm-hmm.
a mom, it is really hard. Um, you know, I discovered when my second was just a like tiny baby just starting to crawl around, you know, there would be some nights where he wouldn't fall asleep that easily. And instead of struggling and maybe rocking him for an hour or so, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let you kind of crawl around me here on the floor. And I sat there with him, and he was so happy to just be hanging out. And I just picked up this little guitar I had, and I started writing a song. And then I needed to like finish the song at one point, and I took him on a walk carrying him in a carrier, and started thinking about the song, and the rest of the melody like came to me on my walk. And so for me it was a real discovery of like how to write in a different way when other stuff is going on. It's a little bit harder now that they're both running around, they're both talking and being like, "Mommy, mommy, mommy."
It's
And
always
so,
mommy.
yes, yeah, it's always mommy. So I just have to wait till they go to bed, and I hope that I have enough energy to sit down and, you know, write something. And yeah, I don't know why, but I'm feeling more creative these days, which has been nice. And so just figuring it out, it's exhausting.
So now that the pandemic is, we're seeing some glimmers of hope on the horizon that it may be over sooner than we think, or at least we hope, we pray, maybe next year. I don't know, but
Mhm.
do you have any plans going forward?
Yes. Let's see, what are my plans? Well, so the EP is going to be released at the end of this month. But it's not being released in Japan yet until the summer because there's a record label there putting it out. And their whole thing was they really want me to come over and tour, which, well, I mean, part of my motivation for writing this EP was so that I could go back to Asia and tour again because I really miss it and I miss my friends over there. And it was, it was always just a great way to get to travel and bring my family along. But yeah, so yeah, I'll be really excited when it's safe to travel and have, physical concerts again to do that.
So
So
you do
that'll
plan on continuing to tour a bit?
a little bit. Touring in Asia is a lot different from touring in the US. Touring in the US is pretty grueling for, an indie artist like myself. And so I don't know if I will ever do a full-on tour like that again, just because the US is so huge too. So it would usually be a longer tour.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to be separated from my family for that long. Or drag them along for it. But in Asia, like, touring in China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, it's a for whatever reason it's actually easier. So, and
Interesting.
yeah, and I love being able to show them that culture as well, since it is a part of them, even though they really don't look it.
That is singer-songwriter Prescilla Ahn. We also had a brief discussion about her identity as being half Asian and half American. And she says in order to resolve the conflict between being a Korean and an American, she's decided to become a member of the international community, a global citizen, if you may. For ASAM News, I'm Mimi Chen.